The scratching began on a Tuesday. Mark had just moved into the old apartment on the third floor of the Cedar Grove complex. The place was cheap, too cheap, really, but he wasn't in a position to be picky. The walls were thin, the floors creaked, and the bathroom faucet dripped no matter how hard he twisted the knob. But it was home until the scratching started. At first, it was faint, a soft, skittering noise behind the bedroom wall, like a mouse trapped in the drywall. Mark sighed, pressing his ear against the peeling floral wallpaper. The sound stopped. "Great," he muttered. "Just what I need." He made a mental note to call the landlord in the morning. By the third night, the scratching had gotten louder. It wasn't random anymore. It had a rhythm, 3 slow drags, a pause, then 2 quick scrapes, over and over. Mark grabbed a flashlight and examined the wall. That's when he saw it. A small hole near the baseboard, no bigger than a dime. Plastered dust littered the carpet beneath it. He crouched down, shining the light inside. Darkness. Then a wet, clicking sound, like a tongue dragging across teeth. Mark jerked back, heart hammering. What the hell? He grabbed his phone and hit record. The next day, Mark moved the bookshelf to get a better look at the hole. It had grown. Now it was the size of a quarter, edges ragged, as if something had been gnawing at it from the other side. He pressed his ear against the wall again. Silence. Then a long, slow exhale. Not his. Mark's breath caught. He fumbled with his phone, pulling up the recording from last night. He turned up the volume, listening past his own startled cursing. There, barely audible beneath the static, a whisper. Let me in." Mark didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor, flashlight in one hand, phone recording in the other. The scratching had stopped, but the air felt heavy, thick, like the apartment itself was holding its breath. Then a sound, not from the hole, from inside the wall. A wet, slithering noise. Something moving through the narrow space between the drywall. Mark's hand shook as he aimed the flashlight at the hole. Something glistened inside. A finger, pale, too long, knuckles bending in places they shouldn't. It twitched, then slowly it curled into a weak, beckoning motion. "Come closer," Mark screamed. He didn't call the lady. He should have. But some part of him knew whatever was in the wall wasn't a rat, wasn't a prank. It was something else. Something that knew his name. Because that night, as Mark lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, he heard it again. The voice. Not a whisper this time. Clear, gurgling, like it was speaking through a mouthful of water. "Mark!" His blood turned to ice. "You're lonely." A pause. "Let me keep you company." Days passed. The hole grew wider. Mark stopped sleeping, stopped eating. He sat on the floor, staring at the wall, recording every sound, every whisper. The thing inside never showed itself fully, just glimpses, a finger, a strand of dark, wet hair, the curve of a smile in the shadows. But it talked. It told him things, secrets, like how the last tenant, an old woman, had died in this apartment. How she used to complain about the scratching too. How she stopped complaining. "She let me in," the voice crooned. "Just like you will." Mark's hands shook. He was so tired. On the 7th night, Mark broke. He stood in front of the hole, now the size of a dinner plate, and made his choice. He reached out. The thing inside reached back. Its fingers were cold, slick. They wrapped around his wrist, pulling gently. "Almost there," it whispered. Mark leaned closer, The last thing he saw before the darkness swallowed him was a single unblinking eye staring back from inside the wall, smiling. A week later, a young woman moved into the apartment on the third floor. The place was cheap. Too cheap, really. But she wasn't in a position to be picky. That night, as she unpacked her boxes, she heard a sound. Faint, scratching. She sighed, pressing her ear against the bedroom wall. The sound stopped. Then a whisper. "Let me in." She smiled. I never meant to find the house. It was raining when I took the wrong turn onto Larkwood Lane, a narrow, overgrown road that didn't appear on my GPS. The trees pressed in, their branches scraping against my car like skeletal fingers. And then, through the downpour, I saw it. A two-story Victorian, its paint peeling, its windows dark. A for sale sign, rusted and crooked, stood in the yard. The strangest part? The price was handwritten, $1. I told myself it was a prank, a mistake. But when I called the number on the sign, a woman answered immediately. "You've seen it then," she said. Not a question, a statement. "The house has been waiting for you." The key was under the mat. Inside, the air smelled like damp wood and something else. Something sweet and rotten, like fruit left too long in the sun. The walls were covered in yellowed wallpaper, its patterns swirling into shapes that made my head ache if I stared too long. Upstairs, I found the bedroom, a child's room. Toys from the 1920s sat untouched on the shelves. A music box played on its own, the tune warped and slow. And then I noticed the drawings, dozens of them, taped to the walls, all in crayon, all depicting the same thing: a tall figure with too many arms, standing in the corner of the room, watching. I should have left, but the house, it wanted me to stay. The doors locked themselves, the windows wouldn't open, and at night I heard it, scratching inside the walls. Not rats, something bigger, something that breathed. I tore open the wallpaper. Behind it, the plaster was covered in handprints, small ones, a child's, and beneath them, a single sentence carved deep into the wood: "It feeds on the lonely." I know what's in the house now. It doesn't hide anymore. I see it in the mirrors, a shadow that lingers just a second too long. I hear it in the attic, dragging itself across the floor. And tonight, as I write this, I realize the terrible truth. The house wasn't for sale. It was for rent. And I've already paid.